This podcast is powered by the pros at Paschal Air Plumbing and Electric. Arkansas owned, Arkansas operated. GoPaschal.com.
Tom, I know you've made your way back from Hoover to the great state of Arkansas. I know we'll get into some Arkansas stuff in just a second, but maybe what you took away from the conference in the first few days and how things have shaken out to this point.
Well, there were some teams. Good morning. There were some teams that were really eager to solidify their tournament bids, and LSU certainly capitalized on that. You know, Mississippi State trying to become a regional host made a pretty good bid for that. Still alive, even though they lost last night. Vanderbilt probably was on the brink of inclusion, and now they're in there. So for the teams, it was really important for, outside Ole Miss that lost and has a losing record now. Most of them did well, and the teams like Arkansas and Texas A&M that were probably assured of a host and probably a top 8 seed going in that went 2 and out, they're probably still top 8 seeds, but maybe, for Arkansas, if not maybe a 3 or 4, maybe they're down to a 5 or 6. But we'll find that out on Monday.
Yep, and the teams that are involved when Arkansas's where they are in the pecking order of national seats 1 through 8 on Sunday, and then the actual team. Do you like how they split it up? I think it's kind of weird. I wish they would just do it all at once, but do you like how they push it all the way to Monday at 11 o'clock?
Oh, yeah, I misspoke on that. Yeah, no, it's cool to me that the national seeds come out the day earlier. It extends the intrigue, and I guess it gives the committee a chance to further, nail down the final spots because it's a lot easier to get the 16 national seeds or whatever they're going to release on Sunday than it is to do the full field.
So you got 2 teams matching up today that Arkansas lost to, Kentucky and South Carolina. Then on the other side of the bracket, you got Tennessee and Mississippi State, one of which Arkansas's beat already in the series, one of which you have not seen play. Maybe what intrigues you about today, and then who will be facing LSU and Vanderbilt tomorrow, Tom?
Well, for Tennessee, look, Arkansas would have liked to have won games, and you can go into all the various factors that, are going to apply to Arkansas heading into next week. But for Tennessee, they might have, or Tennessee and Kentucky might have the top 2 national seeds nailed down at this point. Like they could, for instance, both lose today and probably still do that. But LSU, I wrote about it in today's paper. The comparison to them and for Ole Miss in 2022 when they barely skeeched into the field. Now, I don't think LSU is going to barely skeech in the field. I think they're going to be a 3 seed, but they're just going to be dangerous because their hitting has come alive. There's been a lot of home runs in Hoover, and LSU's hit 2 grand slams. Arkansas hit 3 yesterday, and Kentucky hit 3 in that game. But I think Tennessee and Kentucky are in fine shape. And for South Carolina and Mississippi State, if State can win and get to the final, I don't see how they don't become a top 16 seed. I sat next to Steve Robertson, the kind of famous tattooed-up dude who covers Mississippi State. And he was plying me with the information about why Mississippi State should be a host and that the teams they're up against, if you look at their KPI and there some various other indices, really aren't even close to Mississippi State. So, it seems to me like SEC powers are convinced they're going to get, I think, 6 hosts, and that would probably mean that Georgia and Mississippi State are both in there.
Yeah, that wouldn't surprise me. I thought it was interesting watching games throughout this week to this point that they spent some of their marketing time on that screen. I don't know if you've seen it being in the ballpark, but if you've watched them on the TV where they've been marketing that 11 teams in the top 25 of the KPI. That's not messaged at the fans. I think that's messaged at the committee watching the games. And certainly this league's wanting to flex a little bit. So I think the interesting question is how many of the top 8 seeds do you get? I believe a lot of people would say 4. Some would say Georgia may have a right to claim one of those, Tom. And, when we look at the map of it, later this weekend, how much national spread is there geographically for those top 8 national seeds. I think it's going to be an interesting draw when the committee releases their results.
It really will, and you're right. I did see the 11 in the top 25 marketing that was going on. I was not that well versed in the KPI heading into this week, and now I read about it more and all that yesterday, and it's been added to the metric that the committee is going to consider. And if you're the SEC, why not pump up that? Here's the new metric, and here's how we're dominating in the new metric. The selection committee head, so one of the teams that's kind of on the hosting bubble is at the school that is the committee head. And I apologize for not knowing if it's like East Carolina or pardon me for stumbling here, but it's a school that's in the conversation to host, and that might be one that knocks out an SEC school.
I think it is ECU, Tom. Yeah, I think you're right.
Yes, for a top 16 seed, that could be a team that does that, and their KPI is not as good, strength of schedule and all that. So, you know what? The SEC is going to be well represented. We've seen many years. Even the last time Arkansas was there in 22, wasn't it 5 out of the 8? And then Oklahoma and Texas were both in it. It was just incredible. Or maybe the SEC had 4 out of the 8, plus Oklahoma and Texas coming in, and that constituted 6. Like Oklahoma and somebody else were the others. So it's a power league. It's only gotten stronger. And when you see what happens to like Arkansas and A&M that had such great regular seasons, and they go in and go 0-2, it just kind of shows you that anybody in this conference can rise up. And look at the national championships from the last several years. It's been SEC schools ever since the Arkansas-Oregon State CWS in 2018.
Yeah, 1-7 for those national champions in the last 3 years in Hoover. Tom, give us a sense of you're there. Like I can listen to Dave, I can watch Dave, but I mean, what was the sense you drew yesterday being at the press conference, watching his mannerisms after the game, and just seeing him interact with the guys on the field following the 9-6 loss?
Well, that he's done they've tried to do a lot of different things to get guys going, like not put mental strain on them and pressure. And by that, Kendall Diggs and Aloy right now, he's not in a super good place hitting. And they've used 50-something different unique batting orders this year. And that just tells you that they're searching. Who can get hot? The amount of different guys they've used, the rotations in left field, and DH has really, in center field, it's just been incredible. We've never seen a season like this because they're not hitting like maybe you thought they would hit. And the pitching that had been so reliable, well, not only have they, lost Hagen Smith's last 2 starts, but he got a loss yesterday. So, and then the question was, well, after Hagen, what have you got? Well, now it looks like Molina's been, confident coming out of the bullpen. So what do you do with that? Do you put him back in the starting rotation again? Maybe you do, because Gage Wood got knocked around yesterday. So they have a lot of questions, really, pitching and hitting. And then the pitcher's fielding yesterday led to multiple runs, right? I mean, Brady Tygert's good deal in the 7th inning, and then, Hagen Smith's throw to first base. And so defense was flawed a little bit. So I think being on the road all these days, I think they're going to really appreciate resting up at home for several days and then finding out, what your draw is, and then just getting ready to try to kick it into a new gear, wipe the slate clean, and see if you can get some guys going.
Yeah. Arkansas's won 3 of the last 10, or lost 7 of the last 10. What's the proper level of anxiety headed into next week?
Well, if you're a Razorback fan that saw them, a super hot TCU team come in last year and just knocked the ball all over the yard in Fayetteville, you're concerned because of all the things I just listed. Guys who aren't hitting super well. Hagen wasn't sharp yesterday. And then what is your starting pitching going to look like behind him? Yeah, you got a deep bullpen. I mean, when you think of Fouch and Flaherty and a few other guys, recent outings have been really good. So, yeah, you want to use them, but you want to be able to spot them up over the weekend, spread them out, close games, and things like that. I think the level of anxiety is pretty high just because the clutch hitting, all the factors that we talked about, and then you add clutch hitting to it, that they're not getting enough of it. I mean, Peyton Holt's 3-run homer yesterday was a bit of an outlier. They've had bases loaded and, they get a sac fly or they get an RBI ground out instead of a gapper double that clears the bases. So there's a lot of anxiety. They've got to try to just mentally refresh and come out with a new approach that they're going to deliver in clutch situations.
BetOnline is your #1 source for all your betting needs. Get the latest odds, lines, and matchup reports for baseball, boxing, golf, and more. BetOnline continues to be the fastest and easiest way to place your wagers, including live betting and your favorite casino and card games available to play right from your phone. Head to the website or use your mobile device to sign up today and get in on the action. Remember to use our promo code BELIEVE, that's BLEAV, for your 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. Bet online, where the game starts.